On the surface, zoos seem like really fun places to see exotic animals. You can also sometimes even interact with the animals yourself. And many zoos advertise themselves as sanctuaries protecting rare species. But it's not all sunshine and happy animals like zoos present. In fact, there are many dark secrets that zoos and zookeepers may not want you to know. I've done some digging and found some things most zoogoers know nothing about. From secret protocols used when animals attack humans, to some zoos completely deceiving their customers. Fake animals. Zoos often have lots of rare animals, but next time you're at your local zoo, make sure you give those exotic animals a second look. They may not be what the zoo says they are. That's right, some zoos actually pretend animals are other animals to draw in more customers. Zoos are meant for entertainment at the end of the day. Sometimes exotic animals can be very hard to get. They can be too rare or expensive to buy, and in some countries they may be illegal or have lots of regulations. For example, some animals legally need a certain amount of space or a certain environment the zoo can't provide. So that's why they sometimes use stand-ins. These are fake or knockoff versions of animals. They may be a different breed which the zoo says is another breed. Some zoos even disguise common animals as exotic animals. One Chinese zoo was caught displaying a Tibetan Mastiff posing as an African lion. They also said that rats and giant sea cucumbers were snakes. And they even dressed up dogs as leopards and timber wolves. Because you couldn't walk right up to the animals and they were behind a cage, many believed the zoo. But when some reporters exposed the zoo, they had to pay many fines. This may sound crazy, but it's a lot more common than you think. Kill on sight. Zoos are normally pretty safe, but in any zoo there are animals, and animals can be dangerous and unpredictable. Every year there's around 100 injuries due to animals in zoos. And each year around 2 of these are fatal. If an animal ever starts to attack a human, then zookeepers know what to do. That's because they have secret protocols depending on the animal. Every zoo has a group of animals that are so dangerous they're called KOS. This means kill on sight. This means that if they escape their enclosures or attack somebody, then the zookeepers have to take them out immediately. These lists are normally pretty surprising. What we may think of as the most dangerous animals are not on them. For example, lions and tigers are not KOS. That's because it's much easier and safer to tranquilize and capture the animal. Also, these animals are very expensive, so shooting them would be a huge loss. Silverback gorillas are tranquilized first, but if that doesn't work, then they are KOS. But there is one animal that is kill on sight at every zoo, and that is the chimpanzee. Chimpanzees are very unpredictable and can be absolutely brutal. In a recent video, we covered how a very well-trained and famous chimp randomly attacked a woman one day. They may look small but are incredibly strong and could defeat even the strongest human. They're also insanely fast, so any tranquilizer darts would likely miss. But the main reason they're KOS is because tranquilizers only annoy chimps even more. Also, tranquilizers won't take effect on chimps right away. This means they could have already eaten someone's entire face by the time the tranquilizer works. Most zookeepers won't even wait until a chimp attacks someone if it escapes. Roadside zoos. If you're taking a trip to a zoo, then you'd better make sure it's not a roadside zoo. Most of the time, animals at roadside zoos are treated even worse than at regular zoos. Animals at roadside zoos are normally not kept in their natural environment whatsoever. Concrete pens are very common. The animals often have no stimulation whatsoever, except perhaps a rotten log or an old car tire to keep them occupied. Roadside zoos act a lot less like sanctuaries than normal zoos. They are built as impulse attractions. This means they're designed to attract passers-by on busy roads, and they normally go to great lengths to try and attract passing cars. This is sometimes to the detriment of the animal's well-being. Also, many of these roadside zoos are not accredited or checked by any third-party organization. This means you don't really know how they work and how the animals are kept. Zoochosis. Being in a bad or unfamiliar environment is very bad for the human mind. For example, many people who are in prison or at war develop mental illnesses. And the same is true for animals in zoos. Captive animals often suffer from a mental illness known as zoochosis. Symptoms include the animals becoming depressed, bored, and lonely. This condition is so rampant in zoos that animals are often given mood-altering substances. This includes things like Prozac, which are normally given to humans. This is not the case in every zoo, but how can you tell if an animal you're looking at in a zoo has zoochosis? Well, there are several symptoms that you can watch out for. One is the animals bobbing their heads. Another is constant pacing around their enclosures. Over-grooming is another thing to watch out for. For example, if animals are constantly cleaning themselves or they're young. Animals biting the bars of their cages is another symptom, and some animals experiencing zoochosis even injure themselves on purpose. The term zoochosis was coined by Bill Travers. This was in his 1992 documentary, which examines the harsh effects of captivity on animals. Surplus animals. Many zoos have what are called surplus animals. These are basically animals that the zoos don't want. If you've seen the Netflix documentary Tiger King, you may remember Joe Exotic had to put down various tigers. That's because he simply did not have the money to keep them alive and feeding them. Well, zoos have that exact same problem. Sometimes zoos don't have enough space for the animals, or they cease being cute or useful for breeding purposes. Sadly, this often results in what's known as zoothanasia. This is where zoos have to take animals' lives. Sadly, sometimes these animals are even fed to fellow zoo inhabitants. Or at other times, surplus animals are sold to other zoos or animal dealers. Thankfully, these practices are not common at certified US zoos. But at overseas zoos and also uncertified zoos, this is common. Bad parents. It's pretty clear that being in captivity is not good for most wild animals. As a result, animals begin to not act like their normal selves. One very clear example of this is animals becoming much worse parents when in captivity. Zoo animals sometimes reject their young purely off bad vibes. This means their young are not socialized properly, and this can lead to them being very dangerous when they're older. Stress. Animals often experience a heightened sense of stress when in captivity. This was perfectly highlighted one day at a zoo in Sweden. A military jet flew over the zoo. This caused the animals in the zoo to get so stressed they ate 23 of their babies. Stress is also a symptom of zoochosis that we spoke about earlier. Fake sanctuaries. There is a big difference between a zoo and a sanctuary. However, some zoos masquerade as sanctuaries to seem more ethical. And also, not all sanctuaries are the non-profit organizations that they appear to be. Some sanctuaries breed for non-conservation reasons, which means they're not really a sanctuary. Sanctuaries should never breed animals just for display. There are no regulations over the word sanctuary, meaning that the term is used very loosely. And even a zoo which doesn't give their animals quality care can use the term, so beware. Bad food. Some zoos feed their animals good quality food, but animals will never get the right food that they're supposed to eat when in the wild. In the wild, animals choose which plants they eat and which prey they hunt. But in captivity, they are fed whatever humans give them. Many zoos give their animals pre-packaged and heavily processed foods. They basically are given the equivalent of TV dinners. A lot of this food does not even need to be chewed. This can cause bad dental hygiene and weak mouth muscles in carnivores like tigers and lions. That's because those animals actually eat with their teeth to keep them clean. Hopefully this video has not put you off zoos or sanctuaries completely. Some are great places, but it's important you always do your research. Make sure that the animals are given great care and great food. And whether they're in captivity or out in the wild, always treat animals with love, care, and respect. But now it's time to make your voice heard. Comment down below, do you think that zoos are ethical or not? If you want some more amazing videos, then check out my second channel. But as always, thanks for watching. There are some more videos you may like on screen right now. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and if you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to Top 10s.